Hello everyone, my name is Gaurav Gupta and I am Senior Technical Support Analyst at BMC Software. So today's webinar topic is BMC Helix Digital Workplace Catalog, common workflow creation use cases and best practices. Okay, so let's take a look at the agenda. So in the agenda, we have a best practices for creating a workflows, and then we are going to see, we are going to understand the workflow design use cases, and then we will check out how we can enable the process logs and how we can extract those for troubleshooting the workflow use cases. And at the end, we are going to summarize what we have learned in the summary. So our very first topic is best practices for creating the workflow, and in that. So as a catalog administrator, you create a workflows for service fulfillment. So we recommend you to review and implement these best practices for configuring your service fulfillments. And in that, first of all, you have to determine the workflow scenarios, including the need of approval, the type of approval required, and the necessary fulfillments that are cases, work order changes, right? So it is very important to determine your workflow scenarios first before you start development. And then if there is an approval step in your workflow, ensure the approval field is correctly filled in. Otherwise, if user doesn't have a manager assigned in the CTM people form, then such approval request will fail. So it's always a request required to basically have the appropriate field populated already. Then we also recommend to use a templates to set the fulfillment values to create work orders, cases, or incidents, and just reduce the reliance on a service desk, right? So to increase the efficiency, simplify, standardize, and minimize the number of workflows to create a generic reusable workflows. Avoid creating a separate workflow from scratch for every service. So otherwise your workflow will be, there will be a lot of work to maintain those, right? So while during the workflow design, first create and map the workflow inputs in the workflow input to a process questions. By using the process variable, you can attach the same workflow to a different services and still provide a specific information based on the based on the service. So in order to have in order to use this the process inputs, you must have that process questions set up, so that can be used as a in the questionnaire, and then it can also be used in the other workflow, but yeah, that has to be specified in the questionnaire. So we always recommend, to not to overload the workflow with all the logic in the one workflow with many steps, because it takes a longer to load the designer, and it may be very difficult to read and understand the process flow. And our recommendation for such cases is to split the logic into another process and use a call activity element to call this process. So we are going to see that this thing into our demo also, where we are going to show you like how you can, split your workflows, where we can call multiple workflows, and we'll keep the main workflow as simple, and that other workflows that can be used into the other into the other services as well, instead of creating for every use case, right? So that we are going to see in the next demos. So the next very first example we have is about from the our agenda point is about the understanding the workflow design use cases. So very first example we are going to have is about configurable reusable work order workflow. So in this example, we are going to see how we can create a workflow that creates a work order from question answers. So this is very interesting example, and this is going to be a bigger one, but yeah, we will be learning so many things from this. So as you can see, there are this is the main workflow that we have here on the screen, and basically we are going to discuss more in the next slides about this. So this basically the base like the most key the very key the key points about this workflow is that this makes the workflow a lot more flexible and can be used in a lot of scenarios where the multiple work orders need to be created, and instead of having to drop a create a work order activity for each work order, and which is really difficult, right, to maintain. So this is a great way to create a workflow that is reusable across the multiple services, with the only difference being the service and the associated questions. Okay, so let me show you the next slide. So in this, we are going to have a three workflows in this scenario. So very first workflow is about the main workflow that I have just showed you in the previous slide. So it is going to have the manager approval, and then we will be having the create question and answer summary, and then call create a work order. These are the basically call activities, the process we are going to call it from this workflow. And then with the manager approval, we are going to simply check the if the manager approval is approved or rejected. If it is rejected, then it will set the our service request to rejected, and it will go to the end. Okay. So from the very first flow, we have seen that, and we'll cover it in the demo. But yeah, and then in the next this create Q&A summary. So in this workflow, there will be like this workflow will basically check the context variable. There is from context variable there is a question and answers, right? That will build the summary from the question that have been answered by a requester. So this basically going to pass the summary into the work order. So that are going to be created. So I'll show you what use case it is. Like basically we are going to have a questionnaire that will have that will have the summary and the templates. So based on summary and template, it is going to pass that summary, and with the template, it is going to create a fulfillment. So that I will just show you in the demo. And then in the third workflow, basically this is for the work order creation that we are going to use. So it will loop through the question and answer and within the workflow, and it will look at the tags. So in the question, we are going to use the tags, and from that tags, it is going to determine if the work order is created or not. And if if the answer is yes, then work order will be created, else it will not be created. Okay. So next section is about the demo. I'll just quickly move to the demo, and we'll just walk you through. Okay, so now I have logged into Digital Workplace Catalog as an administrator, and this is the 22.1 system. And now this is a service that that we are going to discuss about. It's workflows and questionnaires. So I'll just open this. So our focus will be more on the questions and the workflows. So I'll just first show you the main workflow here that is created. So I'll just first show you, so that will clear the idea about what we are doing here. Okay, so this is basically a main workflow, and in that you can see here that the flow that we have is like it will first start, and then it will check for the approval. Like if it is approved, basically if the request is having the manager type, approval type as a manager, then it will just go to the manual process, and then it will check for the approval. Like we will have the approval process name mentioned here, and then a requesting username as a requested by user, and then we'll have the requesting for a user ID as a login ID of that user. And then in the approval summary, we are going to put that basically this approval is for specific for service, and then the request, the service request ID. Okay. And then if it is basically status is rejected, then we will be having the set service request status as rejected, and our request will go to the end here. Okay. So if we are not using the approval, so we are not going to use basically a approval tag in the questionnaire, but it is just for example. So now like in the actual flow, so it will now basically if there is no approval, it will directly go to create question and summary. So this is a sub process, and then it will call the call to create a work order. Okay, so in this example, we are not going to see only one work order creation. So basically, with the same flow, we wanted to create a multiple work orders. So for example, we are going to create a 3 work orders from the same flows. So now these are the sub processes that I will show you. So before that, I will show you the questions. So it will be a bit easy to understand when we are going to see how the question and answer summary for flow gets we are designing, and that way it will be more clearer. So in the question, these are the simple radio button type question, and then in this we have the label as a create work order to reinstall OS. Okay, and in that we are going to put the question values as yes or no, and then here you will enable the internal tags, and in the internal tags there's a very first the very first string is about the work order one, and the second record is the Calbro reinstall OS. So the first one is basically our summary of our work order. Second one will be our template that we are going to pass. So that will be for the work order. So it should be a work order template. Okay. Similarly, we are going to see two more records here that are for create a work order to upgrade server and recover database, right? So here only changes in your separate tag, in your tags, internal tags, which is your summary, that would be your work order 2, and then your work order template name. Okay, so it's a prerequisite to have the work order templates created, and then you can use it here. So as long as it's go, you can add one more questionnaire here, then it will have one more work order created. You don't need to create a separate flow for every work order. So we are going to see that. Okay. So from our flow, we are going to see a very first the call process that we have defined there is about the generating the question and answer string. Okay. So let's go back to that. So this is from the workflow. You can directly we can create a workflow by clicking the new workflow, and then in the generate this is the workflow that I have already created here. Okay. All right. So here in this generate question and answer string, so as we discussed, so what it will do is it will basically pass the it will basically pass this question summary of your questions to your work order summary, right? So that is a task of this basically a process, and in that first you will create a input variables. So input variables would be for the SB context. So SB context variable, we specify this as a service broker context type variable. This variable contains the information and details that automatically generates from the service request. So you can use all the information that is available from the service request, and we can see it when we go further. Okay, and there is a next the output variable. So the output variable we are going to mark as a the variable type as output and the data type as text. Okay, and next one is the local variable. The local variable that of type object. So this variable holds the individual information while the questions and answers are looped through. Okay, so yeah, all right. So from this yeah, let me just take this. So from the canvas you can see the element the insert element, then a length, and the generate a question and answer string, which is again an insert element, and the exclusive gateway. So the insert element, the original insert element, right? So this original insert is added to initialize the output text variable. Okay, so this output text variable here, you need to simply put the input map as double quotes for a text, and then offset set as 0. And in the insertion, you have to keep a double quotes there. And then just map it with the output text to a output source as a output. So this will be your uh, original inserts output. Okay. So you have to select this one. Next, you need to add the sub-process element to the canvas. So here, like you can select this sub-process element, and you can add it to the canvas. And here, this sub-process is basically added to loop through the question and answer. So if you can see, we are having the loop type create set as the sequential. So here, loop type as sequential, then loop data type we have selected as a question and answer, and that are from the your service broker context, and that like this question and answers will be looped through, and the input data item will be your object. Okay, So as I said, object is the variable that holds a string representation of a so basically, sorry, the object holds a individual question information while question and answers are being looped through. Okay, so this is basically going to check the uh, individual information that is being passed. Okay, so now in the sub process, you have to add exclusive gateway here. Okay, and in the exclusive gateway, there is a in the after exclusive gateway, just create one more element, add one more element called length. Okay, so the length element is added to determine the length of the output text. Okay, so let's see in the length. Okay, so in the length, just put the output as a text, output text as a text. Okay, and just actually now just add the just point this exclusive gateway to a length and add the condition here that it should check the object is not equal to blank and then object is not equal to attachment. Okay, add another insert there. Okay, and in the insert, just set the input maps as text as output text, offset as output. That is the activities length. So I'll just show you. Okay, so you just have to set the length as activities output. Okay, so this output you have to select here, and then in the insertion, select the object that you are checking the that you are putting the objects label and then objects display value. Okay, so this is basically your questions label and the questions display value that you are going to put here. Okay, so this insert activity, right, it is basically to append the question label and its display value as we see. So all the then you can just map take this just navigate it to the end and this will end the sub process flow and it will exit the actual flow, the main workflow. Okay, so what this overall thing is like basically a question, there would be three questions, and when first question is comes in, then it will loop through all this question from this with the sequential manner from this multi-instance loop, and then that question gets processed, then summary will be captured for the specific question, and then it will exit the flow, and then it will go to the next flow, which is for the create work order, right? So we will go to the create work order flow now. So this is our second call process from the main workflow, which is a create work order. So let me open it. Okay, yeah, I'll just minimize it, minimize the canvas to see all the elements. So okay, so in this we'll be having the 5 JSON parser, that are like get question label, get question value, get question tag. So this is basically to get a label value tags from a question, and then in this get work order summary and get work order template. So this will be, as I showed very first from the question, there would be in the internal tags we have a summary and the template, right? So it will get the summary and the work order template from the question tag. Okay, so I'll just show you one by one how it goes, and then from after that it will simply create the work order. So here first we'll create the like we have the input variables that we need to create. So the very first one is the question. So the question variable holds a single question information that is passed in the form from a calling process. Okay. And then we'll be having the service broker context variable to get all the details or information from a service request. And there will be a notes there will be a notes field as well. That notes field will contain this basically the summarized question and answers that will be passed in the form of calling process. So that I will show you from the main workflow. It is passed the notes variable there. So that we are gonna see. And then there will be a local variable for all the JSON parsers, right? So the local variables are there to basically it holds the output of the get question value label, then get tags, then a summary, and the templates of a work order. So this will be the 5 local variables that we have created here. So let's look at the flow here. So in the first one, to get the question label, so here the JSON parser element you can add, and then in that you can simply put the JSON as a question here. Okay, so the question, as I said, it's a single question information that is currently in the flow. Okay, so that's the question you have to add, and in the path for search, select the set the dollar dot label to get the label from a question, and then leave the limit as it is. There you do not need to add it. And in the output map, just select as question label and the the output of your get question label activity. Okay. Similarly, for the question value, you'll have the you'll get the question in the JSON. Then you'll have the dollar dot value as a path for search, and then you will add the input map as for the question value and the tag as well. It will be same, like the JSON will be question, and the path for search is dollar tags, and you'll have the output map as a question tags. Okay. So now we have a exclusive gateway created to basically first check here whether the work order should be creator or not, and that criteria will be. Let me just select it here. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So here you can see the condition that it will check as a question tags not equal to null and the question value is equal to yes. Okay. If it met, it will create the basically it will go further and create the work order, else it will go to the end. Okay. So we assume that it's that passed, and then the get work order summary, as I said, it will check the tags of the question that which was the internal tag, right? So it will check the tag and it will look for the very first record, which was the work order 1 or work order 2 or work order 3, that it will check. So okay, yeah. Yeah, so that tag will be a JSON array like this, that I showed you, and that gets the very first item, as I said. So in this case, it will be a summary that the path for search is selected as $0. That will be a summary, and then you will have that added as an output map as a work order summary. Okay, and then it will take the second output, right? Like it will take the second record from the same array. So let me show you. Yeah, so here the JSON array it will again checks from the question tag, and in the and in the path for search it will check the JSON array as the work order summary, and then next is template name. So it will take the template name here, and then it will have the output map as work order template. Okay, so now you have all this information that is in the local variable, and now you will use it in the create work order identifier. Just have the create work order identifier element added here, and in that you have to put that a connection ID as your remedy connector, then login ID, the contact name that you are requested by user login name, and then the work order summary as the local variable that we have added here, and then the description that you have the description, right? The description you have to add that is your again the input variable. Then you are going to add the template name as your work order template, that as your local variable, and then process correlation ID you need to add, and then here just once all this process gets complete till this point, it will create a work order. So it will create a one work order from this point, and then I'll show you the main workflow, how it going to loop through. Okay. Okay, I'll just open the flow quickly here. Okay, so this is the main workflow. So now I'll just walk you through how this main workflow gets created. So first, we will have the input variables, that is our service broker context, and the approval type that required for the approval the basically our call activity for approval, and then the local variable as notes and the single question. Okay, so let's yeah. So this single question, right? So this single question is holds the JSON of the single question. So now we'll just show you. So once our request, like once the service request generates, this will call this main workflow, and then it will come here in the create Q&A summary. So it will here on the, you have to select the call process, that is a call activity. So in the the call activity you have to select, and in the call activity, in the call process, you have to select the workflow that we have created, which is a generator question and answers string. Okay, you can select it from here, and then I'm just add the input map here as our service request service context variable. Then you have to just map the notes field to the map the notes field with the output text variable. Okay. Next is it will you have to point this to a call create a work order element. You have to add one more call activity here and just add the call process as the create work order. Okay, so now you got the summary for your from the questions, and now you are basically calling the create work order flow, and that is the call process that we have created. So here you can select the create work order process, and then in the input maps select the single question, then SB context and the notes. Okay, and you will have to loop through this in a sequential manner from the question and answer. Okay, so select the loop data input as a question answers, and input the data item which is single question. Okay, so you will loop the questions one by one. Okay, so there will be 3 questions, so you will loop, so this will loop the question one after one. So now after completing this, it will go to the end. So the flow is now here that your question, it will, like after the service request created, it will basically, if there is a no approval, then it will basically call this process. From this process, you'll get the summary of from the questions, and then with the data, you'll create a work order with having the template. It will check the your summary and then your template, and basically pass the summary and details into your work order, and it will create the, it will loop through, and it will pass every like it will pass through the every the input that you have selected. Maybe you have selected as a 3 work order, then it will select create work order one by one. So you don't need to create multiple workflows to create a work order, right? So it will go through the same workflow, it will create a multiple work order. So I'll show you now how it creates. Okay, so I'll go back from here, and from the question I just showed you how the input was. So now we'll just submit a request from the DWP. So I'm in the DWP now. So now here I'll just request. Okay, so now I will select I need all 3 work orders to be created. Okay, I'll just submit. Okay, so this is in progress. Okay, now I'll check if those work orders have been created or not from my service. Okay, so this is my question. So this is the service. Okay, yeah, you can see there 3 work orders have been created. So we'll pick one of them and we'll check in the media. Okay, so you see the template is a Calbro reinstall OS. The summary is work order 1, and it has added the details in the notes. Okay, so this is our first example that we came to the end. So now we are back to our presentation, and now the example 2 is basically using a multi-instance loop to create a multiple business workflow cases. So in this example, right, we will be using the multi-instance loop of type parallel, and there will be a service that has a multi-instance, that has a multi-select question type, and that multi-select some multi-select table question will have that like for those questions we'll have the multi-instance loops added. So the steps will show some best practices as well when we start developing those when we will show the developed workflows as well. So in this example, we have used a parallel gateway instead of a sequential gateway to show you how it works. So basically the parallel gateway, sorry, the not parallel gateway, sorry, the parallel loop, right? So the parallel loop will execute all at once. So it's like for example, from in the sequential by its name, it will execute it executes the loop and it will take the records one after one. So for example, if there is any work order there in the loop, then that work order will gets created, and then until and unless it gets completed, it will wait for in the receive task. So the next one will not be created. So that way there is a slight drawback here for the sequential loop for that. So in this example with the parallel loop, we will show you how this workflow and how the cases gets created. Okay, so you can see on the screen there. Here I'll just explain about the call activities. In the call activity, we are using the another call process, that is a nominate p person for spot bonus. Okay, so I'll just go to the next slide. So in this example, there will be a take a scenario where you there is a like for example, John has to basically recognize employees or give them a spot bonus for their good performance, right? So in this example, so what it will happen, like from the question perspective, so user will say will simply go to the DWP and there will be a question, and in the question it will have a multi-select option. So from the CTM people, it takes the multiple users as he wants, maybe two to three user, four users. With those four users input, it will have that input taken from the question, and with the question, it will have the loop as a parallel. So all the users will basically go to the manager approval first. Here you can see after the send in-app notification, there is a request approval. So after request approval, once those requests gets approved, there is expectation that case should be created if that request gets approved. So I will just basically explain you how that process works in the demo section. Okay, so we'll talk more there. So let me move to the demo and we'll talk more about that. Now, in this example, it is very important to, open the DWP catalog from BWF, right? So when the service is created this way, it will be associated to a subcatalog. If a service isn't associated to a subcatalog, then create activity will error out. So you need to create a the service from the BWF. So simply you can open the BWF and click on the manage catalog. And once you click on the manage catalog, it will take you to the DWP catalog. And in this, we have an example as nominate for spot bonus. Okay, so I'll just open it. Okay, so from the workflow section, so there is a workflow we have created as report an issue. So it's not necessary to give a same name if you are using that workflow in the several other services as well. So you can give that name, but if it's specific to that, just make sure you give a proper name there. Okay. So in this case, I'll just click on edit on the workflow and I'll show you how it's developed basically. Okay. So here you can see, first of all, we have to create the input variables. So that is the impact of contribution. That is the input variable first, and then a service broker context to get the details from the service request. That nominated people. Okay, the nominated people is the basically the all the users that you have selected in your question, and then justification for the nomination, and then the local variable nominated person. Okay, so this will basically person will be nominated person will be the question that is in loop. The basically from the loop, the one person or a multiple person. So one person will be named as a from the local variable. Okay, so in this I'll just quickly show you how this worked, and I'll just go back to the question first. How the question we have created for this. Okay, so here's a question on the screen. Okay, so very first question, that all are the input variables, and these are the process question for that. So the were nominated people, as I said. So in this, you'll have to create a question that is of a table multi-select or a multi-select. So in that, you can give basically have the question values. So you can create a dynamic question, have it mapped to the CTM people form, and get the stored value as a remedy login ID, and have the query filter. You can choose as whatever the query you want, but here we have simply selected as profile status enabled. Okay. And then we are checking for the remedy login. We are actually displaying the login ID and the corporate email. So you can set the first name, last name as well as per your requirement. Okay. And we have marked this as a required field. So next is impact of the contribution. This is just a static value we have created, so that user can select from the radio button that how it impact, how that actually impact, whether it's impacted on the entire company or a team or a customer. So that is what we have added as a static variable, and there is a justification, that is the one of the question we have created as a text area. Okay. So this is how the question looks. So we'll go back to the flow now. Okay, so in our main workflow, so add the call activity here, and in the call activity, you will have to create another process. So we will have one process created as nominated person for spot bonus. Okay, but in this call activity, what other parameters we are going to add is you have to add the input as impact of the contribution. You can select it as an environment variable, and the one that the user going to put from the question. So then the next is context variable, and the nominated person, that the nominated person, which is our local variable that is in the list, and then justification the user entered. So this one we will have the parallel gateway, the parallel loop that have been created. So we'll use at a parallel loop, and that will loop through the nominated people. So all the users data, all the users that have been selected, and then input data item would be a nominated person. So all the users will be looped through this. Okay. So now let's go and see how this workflow have been designed as for the nominate person for spot bonus. Okay. So here the nominate person will just open it from the workflow directly. Okay, so here's the workflow. I'll just minimize, just zoom out the canvas so we could see all. Okay, so here first of all we have just added the send in-app notification. So in this, on the right hand side, you can see there is a input map as a receiver, the login ID as the one who's submitting the request, right? So the submitter of the request, and then a title will you can specify as a specific person, and the content would be the nominated person login ID. So this is just for the information for the user, right, on what the input it has been triggered. That this is always good for troubleshooting. Okay, so now we'll take a look at the input variables. So in this, we have created a input variable as impact of contribution, and then a context variable, and then nominated person login ID, and the justification. Okay. So next element here after the send in-app notification is the approval, right? So in the request approval, it will be this is the call activity, and with this call activity, you can select the called process as request approval, which is our order the box, and in that you can just have the input maps as requesting login ID as your requested by user login ID from a process variables context, right? And then here you can put as the requesting for login IDs as your nominated person login ID, right? So that person which is in loop currently. And in the approval summary, you can specify it like this, which is good for reading purpose. So it is a spot bonus has been requested for nominated person login ID. And then you add a new line, and then the justification for a bonus was justification. And then contribution was impact of contribution variable you can put. And then the nominated was made by the login name. Okay. And then simply you will have the service name from the service context variable, and then service request ID from the context and service request and the service request ID. So this is you can put. Okay. So once this request gets further, you should add the exclusive gateway where you're going to check whether this request has been approved or not. If it is approved, then it will go to the create activity, else it will go to the end of the flow. So in the create activity, so you can select take the create activity from the palette, just select as a create activity and add it here. And in this, add the connector as an innovation studio, then have the subcatalog ID as a subcatalog from the service context variable, and then SB context variable. And from there, next you will have to select the service request GUID, which is from service again from the context service request. You can select service request GUID and the service request ID as we selected earlier, and then a requester, which is the requested by user login ID, login name from the context again. And then you can have the summary, which is good readable summary you can add that similarly for the approval that you have created. So similarly you can create here. Okay. Then after that, have the queue as a question and answers from the context. And yes, so after that, everything goes well. You just have to mention here, like you just have to add the annotations, right, which is good for the documentation purpose, like why this workflow created or designed this way. So it is just like written this way. If the approval is approved, then create a BWF case, and otherwise the case is not created. So this is just an information purpose, but it is good for documentation. So it is the best practice we have already informed earlier. Okay, so now we'll just show you how this flow actually, how this request gets created. I'll just quickly show you the request submission from the DWP. Okay, now I'm in DWP. So I will just, this is our service, nominate for spot bonus. So now we'll just request this. Okay, so we have a question as nominated people. Here I will select the user, test BMC. I'll select the first one, then I'll select test user one. Second one I'll select. So I have basically selected two of the users. Now I will just select that how it is impacted. Maybe I'll select the entire company. Then justification would be would be like a good feedback, good survey feedback you can put. Okay, I'll just simply submit. So with this way, I'm expecting that I should get approval for two of the users. So I have marked myself as a approver. So I will just mark it. So here you can see the approval. I'll just open it. Okay. So here, so I'm currently showing as approval waiting for two, and nominated people table here as test BMC test user one, and I'll just approve. Okay. So approval is now completed. The request is, let's see. So now request is moved to in progress. Let's go back to the service request report and let's see if this is service request. Okay, so you can see the case has been created for both of them, right? So the spot bonus case has been created in the backend. So it created two cases. So we have created a one workflow, and with the using the questions, it will, as number of users you will select, you don't need to create multiple workflows. It will just create a multiple cases using the one workflow. Okay, using the it's a multi instance loop. So I'll just quickly show you that the case into the business workflow. Okay, so this is the case. Okay, you can see the summary. Spot bonus has been requested by user, and then the justification, the impact of the contribution is this, and this is the basically a case created. Okay. Okay, this is the end of our demo 2. So our next agenda point is about process logs for troubleshooting workflow issues. So basically how we enable and download the process logs, right? So these process logs are very important, to troubleshoot the workflow issues, because it shows all the details, like basically how the request flows from the your elements of your workflow. If there is any error, or if you want to know what that variable was having the value inside that, so you can see it from the the process logs. So that is something really important when you develop something, and then you need to see more details from that, and then that will always helpful. So this also captures the information and errors that occur in the workflow and log them into this file, right? So about how it enable, basically steps to enable and the steps to download, that I will show you in the next demo. So here on the screen, you log into your Mid tier. Then on the left hand side panel, application flyout menu, you can go here and select the application AR system management console, and inside that AR system server group console. So once you click it, you get the AR system management console view here, and in that you have to select the logs management here. Okay, so I'll just quickly select. I already here opened. So in the logs management console, when you click on the logs management, so here you have to select the server as a platform FTS, or whatever the server you have, maybe user, or but whatever. If you want to select it from one, you can select it like this, or if you have to say perform the same on all, then you can select all servers. Okay, so here we are going to simply select all servers, and in that I'll just quickly show you. If you scroll down, so there is a process log, right? You can see here. Just enable the process.log. Okay, just enable this. Then click on the process log. Just go above, click on apply. Okay, so once you apply, you will see the log setting has been successfully applied. So this way, your process log have been enabled on all the servers. Okay. Now to extract these logs, how you can extract this? Basically, go to the logs and you can see the view logs, right? So click on view logs. So it will open this. So select the server that you want, like from which you want to download the logs. So I'll select that FTS0. Okay, so I'll just search for, these are all the available logs from your DB directory of your AR server. So the process.log, this is the name I think, yeah, this is the name we have given. So just click on it. Once you click on it, just click on get file. Okay, once you click on the get file, it will just create the file here. You can see, select the file name, the zip file that is created, and you can set as save to disk. Once you click on save to disk, it will ask you to download the download directory, and just select the directory here. Okay, so this way you will download the process logs, and I'll quickly show you what you can see in the process logs. Okay, so this is the process log. I have opened it. So for our use case, so very first use case for creating the multiple work orders. So this is the one of the example I have taken. In here, you can see it says start the execution of the process. So this is your process, and there is an input we have given, right? And there's a process instance. It says process instance created, and all the details basically that you want to see. So here in the call activity, there is a you see the call activity that has been triggered, which is our question and answers string, generate question answer string. The same way, it will show you all the inputs and outputs that was there, and all the qualifications that is in the your exclusive gateway, and also it will show you the work order that was created. So yeah, so here's the work order. You can simply see here that it is showing you that it is created. Okay, so this way it is very important. Even if you get some error, you will see the error here. Okay, so this is the end of our demo 3. Okay, so let's check what we have learned in the summary. So we have gone through the best practices for creating a workflow. Then we had a good understanding, right, on have like about the workflow design use cases, the 2 use cases that we have saw, and also we have saw the how we can enable the process logs and how we can troubleshoot from it, right, and how you can extract it, that information you have got from this. And then basically how that the overall best practices that you can utilize from your ongoing workflow developments that we have learned so far. Okay, so this is the summary of the this presentation, and then the references I have put. I have given a link where you can see the blogs that have been created for the topics that we have discussed, and also you can see the documentation for the process loggings and the some more details about the what logs other logs would be myit sb logs and the api filter sql logs that would be helpful in troubleshooting. So now you can subscribe to our channel, which is Helix ITSM Discovery channel for digital workplace. And then we are end of the session. And thank you very much for your time.